The story begins in Egypt where a family arrives at their new home in a quiet and lonely area far from the city. At first, everything looks normal, but there is a strange and uncomfortable feeling in the air as if something is not right. One day, their pet bird suddenly become very sick and start without any clear reason kill, which makes the family worried and confused. They feel that something bad is happening around them, something they cannot see or understand. Instead of ignoring it, they decide to research decide to search from the source of this strange problem. This leads them to go underground beneath their house, where they discover something shocking and unaccepted: a hidden black pyramids buried deep under the ground. The pyramid looks very old, mysterious, and dangerous, as if it has been hidden and dark secret from a very long time. As they explore further, they found a sarcophagus, an ancient coffin that seemed to be connected to something evil. Without knowing the danger, they opened the sarcophagus, and at the moment they accidentally release a powerful supernatural force. At this moment, they accidentally released a supernatural powerful force. Suddenly, everything turned into horror. An invisible and terrifying pressure attracts them, and the husband is brutally killed in front of his wife. The situation becomes completely out of control, and the wife, filled with fear and panic, runs away to save her life. This opening part clearly shows that can incense evil has been awakened, and this is only the beginning of a much darker and more dangerous story that will affect many lives. After this troughing beginning, the story shifts to the common family who are living in a Cairo, Egypt. The family, including Charlie's and Charlie's a hard-working TV reporter, his wife Laisra, who is a nurse, and their children Kita and Living. Whiling Lasrias is also accepting another baby. Their lives seem normal and peaceful, but everything changed in one shocking moment. One day, a strange woman, now as the magician, appears near their house. She slowly gains Kita attention by offering her candy, and acting friendly, making Kita feel safe and curious. Without realizing the danger, Kita walks close to her in a sudden and frightening moment. The woman kidnaps Kita and disappears. When the family realizes that has been happened, panic anywhere. Charlie immediately runs after the woman, catching her thought the streets and into a growing sandstorm. But the storm becomes so strong that he loses sight of both Kita and the kidnapper. The environment turns into dangerous with dust and winds, making it impossible to see clarity. Reported this disappear affects Charlie falls to save his daughter. The family report the kidnap to the police, and an investigation begins. They are assisted by a young detective named Dila Zaki, who tries to help them, but the main detective is suspension of the parents are believed they might be holding something. This create tension and emotional pressure on the family if they are not only dealing with the pain of losing their daughter but also facing double and blame from the authorities. This part of the story show how quickly a normal life can turn into a nightmare, and sets up the emotional and the struggle that the family who will thought in the coming events. 8 years pass after the painful disappearance of Keta, and the life of the Camon family is no longer the same as it once was. The story now moved to the Albuquerque, New York, where New Mexico, where the family has tried to rebuild their lives far from the Egypt and the memories that continue to haunt them every single day. Charlie is no longer the helpful and energetic man he used to be. Instead, he carries a quiet sadness and guilt inside him, always thinking that he failed to save her daughter. Lysra also struggled deeply, but she tried to stay strong for the sake of her family, especially for the other children and the youngest child, Muda, who has grown up without ever truly knowing her older sister. Living with them is Lisra, mother Carmen, and deeply realized woman who believe that praise is only way to protect the family from unseen evil. Even though the family appear to have moved on, there is always a feeling that something unfinished is still connected to them, something dark that has not let go. One day, far from in Egypt, a strange and mysterious events took place that will change everything once again. A plane is seen flying over a desert area carrying something extremely important and dangerous, a cosmology that had been a cars a sarcophagus that had been discovered in a flooded valley. The artifact is being transported secretly, handled by two brothers who seem nervous and distracted, as if they know that what they are carrying is not something meant to be distributed. Suddenly something goes terribly wrong. The plane crashed violently in the desert, create a massive explosion that can be seen from miles away. Unrabbit teenager witnessed the crash of a distance, unaware that this moment will be connect to something much bigger and more dangerous. After the crash, the authorities and the arrives at the scene to investigate. Police arrive at the scene to investigate. Among the rocks they recovered the strange and dangerous carbonates which appear surprisingly intact, deposit the destruction around it. There is an area's silence as the object to transported to a research facility where experts purpose to open it. No one truly understands the danger they are about to face. When the sarcophagus is finally opened, everything is shocked by what they see inside. Instead of innocent remains, they find the body of teenage girl Kita. However, she does not look like a normal human being. Her body is thick, dry, and wormed in a way that resembles a mummy. Yet there are signs that she is still alive. This discovery confuses and frightens everyone. Parents, how could a girl who disappears 8 years ago to be found inside accident plane crashed in such a condition? Back in the other city, Mexico, the Cannon family receives an unaccepted phone call that changed their lives in a instant. The police inform them that their missed daughter has been found evil in Egypt. At first, they cannot believe what they are hearing. It feels impossible, almost like a cruel joke. But as the details become clear. Hope begins to rise with them. Without wasting any time, Charlie and his wife travel back to the Cario, filled with a mixture of excitement, fear, and confusion. They do not know what they will find, but the idea of seeing their daughter again after so many years is overwhelming. When they finally arrive at the medical facilities and see Kita, their emotions become even more complicated. She is alive, but she is not the same girl they remember. She appears in deeply disturbing. Her skin looks unnatural. Her body is weak and with her body weak, and she bravely move or reacts. It is as if she is tripped between life and death. A doctor explained to the a doctor explains to them that Kita's condition is highly unusual and cannot be fully explained by science. Her vitral signs are stable, but her physical statements suggest something far more unnatural. The doctor warns them that brings her home could be dangerous. The doctors warns them that bringing her home could be dangerous, but the parents refuse to listen. After years of pain and loss, they are not willing to lose their daughter again. Deposit all warnings, Charlie and wife decide to take Kita back with home. They believe that love and care will help her recover, but deep down there is a growing sense that something is dangerous wrong. As the purpose to leave Egypt, the atmosphere became heavy with tension, as if an unseen force is quietly watch them. The journey back home feels long and uncomfortable, with Kita remaining listless and motionless. The entire time there is no sign of recognition. In the entire time, there is no sign of recognitions in her eyes, no emotions, no connection, only an unseating emptiness. The part of the story slowly build a feeling of dread and mystery. It shows that Kita return is not a normal but the beginning of the something much darker. The question become more serious and more treffing. What really happened to Kita during these 8 years? How did she end up inside the sarcophagus? And most importantly, is she truly still a human, or has something else come back in her place? The movie, after bringing Kita back to home in Mexico, the Cannon family tried to return to in a normal life, but it quickly become clear that nothing is normal anymore. They step up a room for Kita and take care of her as if she is just sick, refusing to believe that something unnatural is happening. Kita remains silent and almost lifeless most of the time, lying still like a baby without emotions. But her parents' presence create a heavy and uncomfortable feeling in the house. Carmen and his wife's deeply realized mother become convinced that something evil is inside Kita, so she consistently prays over her, hoping to protect the family. At first, nothing dangerous happening, but small and disturbing signs begin to appear. Kita body start to change slowly. Her skin looks unnatural and her bandages began to loosen on their own, as if something unmatched trying to come out. One day, Cameron's wife to try take care of Kita by trimming her toenails, but something goes dangerous wrong when a piece of her skin accidentally strife of revealing something disturbing beneath. This moment shocked them deeply, but instead of seeking help, they choose to hide the truth and continue protecting pretending everything is fine. Soon after, Kita suddenly become violent in a strange and unaccepted way, even harming herself without showing any pain, whi- which makes it clear that she is no longer in a control of her own body. Charlie started noticing that the bandages wormed around Kita are not random. They are covered in a writings strange writings and symbols that looks like a incense structure. As fear grows inside him, he realizes that this is not a medical problem but something much darker and older. Meanwhile, Kita begins to affect the interior house, create tension and fears and confusion among the family members. Strange sounds are heard at night, and there is a consist feeling that someone is watching them. Even thought the family try to stay strong and deigning to trust, the situation keeps getting worries and dangerous. This part of the story show how the horror slowly entered their home, turning a place of safety into a place of fear, and it became clear what bringing Kita back was not a blessing but the beginning of a nightmare that is now impossible to escape. As the day passed, the situation inside the common family house became more disturbing and dangerous, and it is now impossible for anyone to ignore that something evil is living inside Kita. The fear in the house grows stranger every night, and even simple moments feel heavy and uncomfortable, as if the interior place is under the control of dark presence. Charlie's become more desperate to understand what is happening, especially after noticing that the strange writings on Kita bandage looks like some kind of ancient language. He started researching and actually visit a professor at a local college hoping to find answer. The professor listened carefully and studied the symbol and slowly reveal a trifling truth. Kita is not just sick or injured, she is being used as a vessel from an ancient used a vessel from an ancient demon now as the Nazarian, a powerful and evil entity that destroys families from the inside. The professor explained what long ago people discovered a way to trap the demon by performing a ritual where the host is wrapped in special bandages covered with scared writers, keeping the demon contained inside a living body. However, if the warpings are removed or damaged, the domain begins to gain strength and control. The information shocks Charlie as he realized that bringing Kita home may have weakened the only things that was holding the demo back. Meanwhile, back at home, Kita behavior become even more horrifying. She begins to move more often, but her movements are unnatural and disturbing, as if someone else is controlling her body. Sometimes she makes strange clicking sound instead of speaking, confusing the family at first. However, Charlie remembers that Kita had learned Marso code where she was younger, and he begins to pay close attention to sound. After carefully listening and translating, he discovered that Kita is trying to communicate a message. The name Laia This gives him a new lead and a small sense of hope, as it suggests that a part of Kita might still be alive inside, trying to help them. Desperate of answer, Charlie's research thought old belongings and find a box filled with letters from the time when Kita was missing. Among them, he discovered a letter from Egypt sent by a girl named by Leila Khali, who appeared to have been Kita's friend. The letter included a picture that showed the same type of candy what was used to clear Kita on the day she was kidnapped. The detail confirms that Leaz is somehow connected to everything that has happened. Charlie quickly connects. Charlie quickly contacts Dila Zaki, the detective, to Cario, who had worked on Kita case years ago, and shares the new information with her. Determined to help, Dela begins investigating the name Layal and traced it to a remote desert far from away from the city. Waiting for backward without waiting for backup, she decided to go there alone, showing her courage but also putting herself in a great danger. When she arrives, the place looks quiet and disturbing, but there is a strange feeling that someone is watching her. As she explored the area, she discovered a hidden underground structure, the same kind of black pyramid connected to the early events. This confirms that the nightmare is far bigger than just one family. Suddenly, the ma- Magician appears and attacks Dila, reveals revealing what she is still alive and more dangerous than ever. In a moment of panic and survival, Dila shoots her, but the situation remains uncontrolled. During the moment, a young girl revealed to be the Magician daughter runs away and digs up a hidden metal box. Inside there is a VHS tape labeled with the Kita name, suggested that it contains important information about what really happened to her. At the first time back in Mexico, the horror inside the house reached a new level. Kita's physical condition continued to change as more of her bandages come loose, and with each layer that falls away, the demo inside her becomes stranger. She begins to influence the minds of her siblings, especially slowly maintains manipulating his touch and behave without anymore realizing it at first. The house become a place of consist fear and dangerous where no one feels safe anymore. Kamen continue to pray, believing what faith can protect them, but her actions only seem to make Kita more aggressive. In one of the most shocking moments, Kita violently attacked Carmen and threw her out of a window. This target event show what the demo has now gained enough power to cause real destruction without restraint. The family is completely broken by this moment, but they still do not fully understand how to stop what is happening. This part of the story builds an intense fear and emotional pain, showing how the evil force is slowly taking control of everything of Kita body. This connects the past and the present, revealing the Kita kidnapping was not of a such large and darker plan. The discovery of the VHS tape, the name Layal and the true about the domain all push the story forward toward an even more dangerous and heartbreaking conclusion. The family is now trapped in a situation where every choice feels wrong as and time is running out as the demon grows strange with every passing moment. After the shocking death of the Carmen, the common family is completely broken, and the house that once felt like a place of safety now feels like a place filled with fear, grief, and darkness. The emotional pain is overwhelming, especially for Laceration, who has just lost her mother in such a violent and horrifying way, and yet she still has to protect her children from the growing danger inside their own home. Own home. The family arranges Carmen's funeral, but even the moment of goodbye is filled with unassess, as if the evil persons refuse to let them have peace. Kita is blocked inside. Kita is locked inside her room during this time, as they are now fully aware that she is dangerous, but keeping her looked away does not stop what is happening. The atmosphere in the house become heavier and strange. Sound continue to throughout the walls at night, making it impossible for anyone to sleep properly. There is an consistent feeling that something is moving, watching, and waiting for the right moment to strike again. During the funeral, the family try to act normal in the front of other, but inside they are terrified and emotionally disturbed. However, the horror does not stop even in a place meant from house where everyone is distracted. Kita somehow managed to escape from her looked room without anyone noticing, showing that physically barriers are no longer enough to contain the evil inside her. Later, in one of the most disturbing moments, Rita goes to Carmen's dead body and performs a horrifying act demanding by demanding the crops and consuming ambling fields, something that no normal human would ever do. This scene make it clear that the demon inside her is now fully taking control, seeing her body is unnatural and trifling ways. When the family discover what has happened, their fear turns into a completely panic as they realize what the situation has gone far beyond anything they can control or understand. As the time the demon influence began to spread more deeply with the family, especially affecting young Muda, who start acting strangely as if she is under some kind of trance. Her behavior became unpredictable and dangerous, and it became clear that demon is not only inside Kita but it also reaching out to control others in their house. The danger is almost mentally affected, become quieter and more distant, as if something is slowly taking over these thoughts. The family begins to fall apart from the inside, with trust breaking down and fears growing stranger between them. Every member of the household feels isolated, even when they are together, cause no one know how might be controlled next. This part of the story begin create more dangerous tension whole house. Meanwhile, Dila is traveled to the United States with the HVS tab. she discovered, knowing that it may contain the key to stopping the demo. The tension continued to rise as the family struggles to survive each passing moment. Charlie's tries to stay strong and protect everyone, but she is clearly losing control of the situation. The house itself began to feel alive with dark, as if the demon's power is spreading into the walls, the ears, and the minds of everyone inside. Simple things like shadows, silence, and even small lies become source of dangerous. The lines between reality and nightmare began to blur, making it harder from the family to think clear or make the right decision. The part of the story show that the demo has now reached its most dangerous stage, where it is no longer hiding but openly destroyed everything around it. The family is no longer just dealing with fear, they are fighting for survival, engaged something that is fear more powerful than they ever imagined. The horror is no longer slow or hidden, it is now aggressive, uncontrollable, and deeply personal. As the situation continues to get worse, it becomes clear that a final confrontation is coming, and it will require a trouble sacrifice to end the nightmare. As a horror inside the common family reaches its most dangerous point, help finally arrive with Dila Zaki reached with the HVS top. She recovered from Egypt, believing it contained the true behind Kita condition and the only possible way to stop the demo. The family exhibited, scared and desperate, gathers together to watch the tape, hoping for answer, but also fearing what they might discover. As the video begins, it shows Egyptian family from many years ago perform a strange and disturbing ritual inside a hidden underground pyramids, the same kind that was discovered early. The footage reveals that the demo now as the demo now as the Nazariana is so powerful that it cannot be destroyed, only transferred from one human body to another. In this video, the family sacrificed one of their own member, willing allowed to demand to enter the person, while the others trip it, asking special warpings covered to score writings. Warping covered in scored writings. This ritual explains everything. Kita was never meant to be saved. Kita was never meant to be saved. She was meant to be a prison for the demo. The tape also reveals that if the demo is not properly controlled, it will break free and destroy not just one family but anyone in the path. While Charles and his wife and Dila are focused on the tape, the situation upstairs become because even more traffic guitar now almost completely controlled by the demo begins manipulations mind were deeply forcing him to help her remove the remaining bandage from her body under the influence, losing control of his own action and obeys her without question, even as he feels fear inside. Together they begin to horrifying process of peeling away the skin and warping that were keeping the demon contained, allowing its power to grow even stranger. The house fills with tension as the demon persons become overwhelming, almost like a force that can be felt in the air. After watching the tape, Della quickly understands what must be done. There is only one way to save Kita and stop the demo. It must be transferred into other host thought a dangerous ritual. This realization brings a heavy silence as everyone understands that this means someone must sacrifice themselves. Charlie, filled with guilt for not saving his daughter in the past, make the painful decision to become new host for the demo. He believes this is this only chance to fix this mistake and protect his family. His wife is heartbroken and try to stop him, but Charlie remains determined, knowing that time is running out and the domain is becoming uncontrolled. As they prepare for their ritual, the house becomes a place of choice and fears. Kita's behavior grows more violent and unpredictable, and the influence of the demo spread further. The family struggle to keep control of the situation. While Dila prepares to retell using the knowledge from the tape, every second feels critical as if they are racing against something that is consistently getting stronger. The emotional weight of the moment is intense. A father preparing to sacrifice himself, a mother trying to hold her family together, and children caught in a nightmare they cannot escape. This part of the story builds toward a powerful turning point where truth, fear, and sacrifice all come together. The mystery is finally revealed, but the solution come at the treble cost. But the situation come at a treble cost. The family now stand at the edge of a final decision that will change their lives forever. As they prepare to face the demon directly and attempt to return that could either save them or destroy them completely. After the family prepare for the dangerous ritual, the interior house feels tense, dark, and filled with fear, as if the domain already know what they are planning and is trying to stop them. Every second feels heavy and no one feels safe anymore. Charlie sits quietly for a moment, looks at his family, knowing that he is about to make the biggest sacrifice of his life. He tries to stay strong, but his face shows fear, sadness, and love at the same time. His wife cannot accept what is about to happening and she breaks down emotionally, begin, be, beginning Charlie to find another way, but deep inside she know there is no other option left. Dila takes control of the situation, staying focused and calm, even thought she understand is how dangerous this return is. She begins preparing everything according to the what she is learned from the VHS tape, carefully arrange the space in the basement where the ritual will take place. The basement is dark and cold, making the moment even more intense as if it become the center of the nightmare. Meanwhile, and upstairs, the situation become even more dangerous and worries. Kita is no longer acting like a human at all. Her movements are fast, unnatural, and aggressive, and her presence fills the house with tension. She seems to be sense what is about to happening and become more violent, trying to break free completely. Still under her control helps her without realizing it. His mind almost fully take over by the demon's influence. Together they continue removing the remaining warping and together they continue removing the remaining warpings and skin, making the demon stronger with every moment. The sounds coming from upstairs, footstep, structing and disturbing noise, making it clear that time is running out. Dila calls everyone to Dila calls everyone to the basement, telling them that they must begin to retell immediately. Then they must be begun to retell immediately. Charlie steps forward, ready to accept this fact. She shares an emotional moment with her wife and children, suddenly saying goodbye without fully expressing it in world. The pain is this moment what is deep, but there is also courage as he choose to protect her family no matter the cost. Dila began chatting the little words extremely as show in the tape. Her voice steady but urgent. The atmosphere changed instantly as if the air itself become heavier and an unseen force starts reacting to the ritual. Suddenly Kita appears at the basement entrance. Her appearance is striking, her body practically unwarped, her skin damaged, and her eyes filled with something dark and inhuman. She slowly walks toward them, but her presence feels powerful, almost unstoppable. The domain inside her is now fully warm and is trying to resist being transferred. As Dila continue to as Dila continues, the little Kita become more aggressive, skirming and move violently, trying to break the process. The house began to shake slightly, objects move on their own, and the environment become dangerous, showing the true power of the demon. Charlie moves closer, putting himself directly in front of Kita, ready to take the demo into himself. This moment is filled with tension, fear, and sacrifice. As the return reaches its final stage, Dila chats louder and the energy in the room becomes overwhelming. Kita suddenly stops moving for a second, as if something inside her is being pulled out. Then it is horrifying and instant moment. The demo begins to transfer from Kita into Charlie. The process is painful and violent as Charlie body react to the dark force interior him. The strange the struggles he struggles to stay conscious, but he does not step back, knowing that this is the only way to save his daughter. Also, Charlie's wife watched the horror and heartbreaking as her husband suffered, but she cannot stop the process. Slowly gains to regain control of his mind as the demon influence over him weakness. The energy in the room reach its peak, and finally the transfer is completed. Kita collapsed to the ground, no longer under the domain control, while Charlie is now the new host. The room becomes silence for a moment, as if everything has stopped. But this silence is not peaceful. It is heavy and uncertain. Charlie is still alive, but something has changed. His body is now holding the same evil that once controlled Kita. Della quickly instructs the family to family to secure him, as the demon can still break free if not contained properly. They place him they place him inside a confused space in the basement, similar to the method showing in the tip, trying to trip the trying to trip the domain before it engaged full of control again. This part of the story is the emotional and the dramatic peak, where sacrifice, fear, and love all come together. It shows the moment where a father gives everything to save his children, while the family face the terrifying reality what even thought Kita is saved. The nightmare is not completely over, the domain is still alive. It has only changed its host, and the final outcome is still uncertain. After the ritual is completed, After the ritual is completed and the demon has been successfully transferred from Kita into Charlie, the house become silent in a very strange and heavy way. Strange and heavy way, as if everything has stopped for a moment, but something dangerous happening, but something dark is still waiting to suffer. Kita lies on the ground, weak, injured, and barely consciously, but for the first time in many years, she is finally free from the control of the demo. Her breathing is slow but natural, and even though her body is badly damaged and scared from everything she has gone thought, there is no sense what her real self has returned. Charlie wives immediately rushed to her, holding her tightly, overwhelmed with emotions, relief, and pain of all at once, because she has her daughter back, but at the cost of her husband. Muda also come closer, refused and scared, but slowly realized what their sister is no longer the same trusting presence she had become before moment she had become before. The moment feels like a small victory, but it is fear from a happy of ending. But it is fear from happy of ending. The more dangerous thing happened in every moment in the house. At this time, Charlie is now looked inside the basement, placed in a confined cocoon like structure to contain the demon inside him, just as the ritual required. At first, he appears claim almost to he appears claim almost to claim, which creates uncomfortable feeling. The family stand at a distance and knowing whether he is still in control of himself, or if the domain has already begun to take over. There is no painful silence between them, filled with fear, love, and uncertainty. Then, in a quiet and heartbreaking moment, Charlie begins to communicate by tapping in Morse code, something that connects back to the Kita. Early attempts to communicate, he slowly taps out the message "I love you," showing that a part of him is still alive and aware, still trying to comfort his family even is this harrowing situation. This moment is deeply emotional because it shows that even thought he has been the most he has been the host of the demon, this love for his family has not disappeared. However, the movie get a remarkable positive response with the multiple efforts of her husband to take control of the family. The movie tells of the story of multiple stages and anything to do else. The Charlie sacrifices everything for his family. However, the moment of the connection also make the situation even more uh, traffic and dangerous, because everyone understands that Charlie cannot stay like this forever. The demon inside him is still alive, still dangerous, and it will actually gain full of control if nothing is done. Dila explained what the ritual they performed was only a temporary situation. The demons has been transferred, but it has been not destroyed. It must be passed into the another who can be permanently contained. Otherwise, the cycle of the destruction will continue. This realization forced the family to face another painful decision. They cannot keep Charlie looked away forever, and they cannot risk the domain escaping again. After discussing their option, Charlie wife and Dina come to a difficult decision. They decide that the only way to truly end this nightmare is to take Charlie back to Egypt, where everything began, and transfer the domain into the Magican, the same woman who originally kidnapped Kita and played a key role in bringing the domain into their lives. The Magican, who had been shot early by Dila, is revealed to have survived and is now being held in custody. This creates an opportunity to end everything by returning the demon to its sources. The journey back to Egypt is filled with tension and emotional weight. Charlie is transferred carefully, still contained, but this condition remains uncertain. There are moments where it feels like he is still present, and other where this behavior suggests that the domain is trying to take control. Charlie vibes stay strong, even thought she is emotionally, because she know what this final step is necessary. Dila remain focused on completing what he started, determined to end the cycle once and for all. When they finally reach Egypt, the atmosphere become intense once again. The prepare for the final ritual, this time with even higher stakes. The magician is brought in, no longer mysterious and powerful as before, but still dangerous in her own way. As the ritual begins, the tension rises and the same dark energy fills the space. Charlie is brought forward, struggling as the domain inside him react violently, trying to resist, began moved again. Dila performed the ritual with process, repeating the charts and step extremely as before, knowing that many mistakes could lead to be disaster. In the final and most intense moment, the domain is transferred once again, this time from Charlie into the Magician. The process is violent and terrifying, but it is completed successfully. The Magician become the new host, and this time she is scared in a way that ensures the domain cannot escape again. With this, the cycle is finally broken. The instant evil that caused so much suffering is no longer free to destroy other lives. In that, the story close on a bittersweet noticed. Kita is alive but permanently healthy and secure both physically and emotionally. Muda are safe but deeply affected by everything they have experienced. Charlie and wives has her children, but the cost was nearly losing everything. Charlie survived the process, but he is forever changed by what he endured. The family is no longer the same, but they are finally free from the nightmare that hunted them for so long. The ending of the story carries a painful message. Same evils cannot be destroyed, only contained, and sometimes saving the people you love requires unimaginable sacrifice. It also shows what even in the what even in the darkest moment, love and courage can still exist, guiding people to make the hardest decision for the seek of others. The final part brings closer to the story while leaving a lasting emotional impact, showing what while the evil has been stopped, the scores it left behind will never fully disappear. And also be the next part of the story, the moral of the story, the mummy, the story of this film teaches us many deep and powerful lessons about life, family fears, and sacrifice, showing how humans' emotions become stronger and when people face everything where something behind their understanding. One of the biggest moral of the story is what love from family is the biggest, strongest force a person can have, and it can push someone to make impossible decisions. Throughout the story, we say how Charlie and his wife never give up on their daughter Kita, even when everything around them becomes dark and dangerous, and even when they are wanted, that bringing her back home could be a mistake. This shows that real love does not think what logical or safety first. It only thinks about saving the people we care about. However, the story also teaches that love alone is not always enough to fix everything, and sometimes love can lead people into a even more dangerous situations when the ignore reality. The family want to believe that Kita was just sick, but by refusing to accept to turn, they allowed the evil inside her to grow stronger, which lead to more pain and loss. This gives us an important lesson what facing the truth, no matter how painful it is always better than living in denial. Another important moral of the story is that some force is life cannot be controlled or destroyed easily, and when humans try to interfere with things they do not understand, it can lead to serious consequences. The demon in the story represents a kind of evil that is intense and powerful, something that human cannot simply defend with strength or intelligence. It shows what there are limits to control humans to human control, and sometimes the only way to deal with the problem is not to fight it directly but to manage it carefully and responsibly. The ritual used in the story is not about destroying the domain but about containing it, which teaches us that not every problem in the life can be completely solved. Some problems can only be controlled in a way that prevent them from causing harm. The story also highlights the idea of the sacrifice, which is one of the most emotional and the meaningful part of the entire narrative. Charlie's decision to take the domain into himself is not just an act of bravery is not just act of bravery but an act of pure love and responsibility. He understands that there is no easy way out, and that saving his daughter means risking his own life. This teaches us that true courage is not about being fearless but about doing the right things even when we are afraid. It also shows that sometimes the people who love us the most are willing to suffer from us in a way we may never fully understand. Sacrifice in the story is not shown as something heroic and glorious, but as something painful and deeply human, reminding us that real sacrifice come with loss and emotional cost. Another strong moral in the story is about the importance, awareness, and the knowledge. At the beginning, the family is confused and helpless because they do not understand what is happening. But as they learn more about the domain and the brutal. They began to take control of situation. This show what knowledge can be powerful too against fear. When people understand what they are facing, they can make better decisions even in the most difficult situation. Dila role in the story represents the idea carefully as she used information and courage to guide the family toward a solution. This teaches us that in a real life, when we face problem, learning and understanding can help us find a way forward. The story also gives a message about how fear can affect people and change their behaviors. Throughout the film, every character react to fear in a different way. Some try to ignore it, some try to fight it, and others become controlled by it. This show what fear is a natural part of being human, but how we respond to be defend we how we are. If we left fear control us, it can lead to be bad decisions and harm other. But if we face it with courage and clarity, we can come over even the darkest situation. Another deep lesson in the story is what action always have sequence. The moment to the moment is open at the beginning. The stars a chain of event what leads to suffering and tragedy. This teaches us that some choices and even small ones can have very big effect, especially when the involve things we do not fully understand. It reminds us to be a careful, responsible, and thoughtful in our decisions may not be possible because we man we may not always to be to able to undo the danger later. Finally, the story show what even after the danger is gone, the effect of the trauma and pain remain. The family survive, but they are not the same as before. Kita is physically and emotionally scared, affected, and the entire family has gone thought experience that will stay with them forever. This teaches us that the healing task time and that some experience change us permanently. However, it also show that survival itself is a form of strange, and that even after facing darkness, people can continue to live and move forward. In the end, the moral of the story is a combination of love, sacrifice, true, and responsibility. It teaches us that life is not always simple, and that sometime doing the right things require pain and courage. It reminds us that we must face reality no matter how difficult is it, and what protecting the people we love may come with a cost. At the same time, it shows that even in the darkest moment, human strength, love, and hope can still next, guiding us thought fear and helping us survive even the most impossible situations. Another important lesson from the story is about responsibility and the weight our choices, especially when these choices affect the people around us. The film shows what sometimes people make decisions with good intention, like Charlie and his wife bringing Kita back home because they love her and want to save her. But even good intention can lead to be dangerous come out if they ignore reality and warning sign. This teaches us that we must think carefully before making big decisions because love should be balanced with wisdom and understanding. The story also explains how Daniel can be harmful because the family keeps protecting that everything is normal, even when clear signs of the danger are in the front of them. They show that avoiding the truth does not protect us. Instead, it gives problem more time to grow and become aware. Accepting reality even when it is painful is the first step toward solving any serious problem. The film also gives a strong message about unity and teamwork. At the beginning, the family is emotionally broken and disconnected because of Kita disappearance, but when the real danger appears, they are forced to come together and trust each other again. They cannot survive alone, and every person plays a important role in the facing the evil. Della, who is not even part of the family because a key figure because she brings knowledge, courage, and direction. That this teaches us that something help can come from outside, and we should not be afraid to trust other when we are difficult situations. Working together increase the chance of survival and success, especially when facing something bigger than ourselves. Another deep moral is about control or how humans often believe they come controlled they can control everything, but the story proves that this is not always true. The domain represents a force that is behind human control, and no matter how much the character try to manage it, they are always one step away from losing everything. This teaches us humanity, the understanding that there are limits to human power. It reminds us that we should respect things we do not fully understand instead of trying to demontate them. At the same time, it shows what even if we cannot fully control something, we can still take responsibility for how we are respond to it. The story also highlights the importance of the communication. One of the most powerful moments in the film is when Kita and later Charlie use Marso code to send message even in the middle of the horror and the darkness. They try to connect with their family. They show that communication is so powerful tool that can bring hope even in the worst situation. It reminds us that expressing love, fear, or touch can make a big difference, especially when time is limited. Sometimes, even a small message like I love you can carry deep meaning and emotional strength. Another lesson is about faith and belief. Faith and belief. Cameron represents strong religious faith, and although her action do not stop the evil completely, they show what belief gives people strength during hard times. The story does not say what faith alone can solve everything, but it shows that belief, whether in religions, families, or hope, helps people stay strong when they are facing fear and uncertainty. This teaches us that inner strength often comes from what we believe in, and that belief can help us endure even when we feel powerless. The film also teaches us about the cycle of the evil and how it can continue if it is not handled properly. The domain is passed from one person to other, showing what problem can move and grow if they are not resolved currently. This can be connected to real life where pain, trauma, or mistake can pass from one person to other if they are not addressed. The final decision to turn the domain into a source show the importance of the ending problem at their root inside of just moving them somewhere else temporarily. Another emotional lesson in the story is about loss and acceptance. The family lost many things, their peace, their safety, and almost each other. Every Even after everything is over, they are left with score that will never fully heal. This teaches us that life is not always about protecting perfect ending. Sometimes survival itself is the victory. Accepting loss and learning to live with it as a part of the being human. It shows that strange is not about avoiding pain but about continuing forward even after experiencing it. The final story gives a message about hope even in the darkest moment when everything seems lost. There is still a small chance to make things right. The family never completely give up. Even when the situation becomes threatening and impossible, this teaches us that hope is one of the biggest human qualities. It keeps people moving forward even when there is no clear path. Hope does not mean that everything will be perfect, but it means that there is always a reason to keeping trying. In consolation, this part of the moral of the story adds more depth by teaching us about responsibility, teamwork, community, communication, faith, and hope. It shows that life is complex, and after every decision we make can shape our future in way we may not accept. The story reminds us that even when we face darkness, we still have the power to choose courage, love, and truth, and these choices can make all different in the end. The film presents herself as a completely different kind of mummy story, moving away from the traditional adventure style and facing more on physically horror film trauma and slow building where which makes it both unique and at time very disturbing to watch. From the very beginning, the movie set a dark tone with its opening scene in Egypt, where a hidden pyramid had a mysterious sarcophagus. Introduced the idea story that the story is not about action or hunting, but about something ancient, evil, and deeply personal. The director by Lee Corion plays a very important role her as the focus more on atmosphere and tension rather than fast-paced storytelling allow the audience to slow feel comfortable and emotionally connected to the character. This slow pace may not be for everyone, especially for viewers who accept a traditional horror film with consistent jumps. But for these who enjoy physically horror, it creates a strong and lasting impact. The story itself is one of the strongest and almost unusual aspects of the film. Inside of the following and typical mummy narrative, it tells a target family story mixed with supernatural horror. The kidnapping of the Kita is handled is a very intense and emotional way, showing how quickly a normal life can turn into a nightmare. As the story was forward, it shifts from Egypt to American adds a sense of distance, but also shows what the evil is not limited to the place to accept to connects of the demon begin transferred between bodies adds a unique twist, making the story feels fresh and almost complex. However, at the same point, the story may feel confusing or overall heavy because it makes emotional drama and supernatural rules that are not always fully explained in a simple way. Still, an emotional core of the story, a family trying to save their daughter, keep the audience engaged throughout the film. When it comes to acting, the performers are generally strong and believable. Jack, who plays Charlie, delivers one of the most powerful performances in the film. He shows a wide range of emotions from hope and love to fear to desperation, especially in later part of the movie where his character is faced to make an impossible decision. This performance in the climax is particularly emotional and adds deep to the story. Leah, as the wife of the Charlie, also does a great job portraying a mother who is both stronger and at the same time Her emotions scenes feel real, especially when she is dealing with the loss of control over her family. Many calamities as Daniel brings a scene of intelligence and determination to the story, acting as a bridge between the supernatural mystery and the family struggle. The younger actor also performed well, especially in the scene where fear and confusion need to feel natural. The horror element in the film are more physically than visual, which may surprise some viewers. Instead of replying only one jump scare, the movie builds tension, thought, silence, strange behavior, and disturbing imaginary. Scenes like Kita transfer her unnatural movement and the slow removal from her bandage are deeply unsettling and stay in the viewer's mind for a long time. The film used body horror or emotional horror together, which make it more intense than a typically supernatural film. However, some viewers may find certain scenes too disturbing or uncomfortable, especially these involving violence with the family. The director once again deserved attention because it controlled the tone of the film every film very carefully. Lee Cornea creates a scene of dread that grows slowly but never fully disappear. Even in a quiet moment, there is always a feeling that something bad is about to happening. This style make the film feel more realistic and impressive, but it can also make it feel slow in part, especially in the middle section where the story focuses heavily on emotional build up rather than action. The visual style of the film is dark and atmosphere with a lot of use of shadows, dim lighting and closed space, especially inside especially instead the house and the basement. This creates a feeling of being trapped both physically and emotionally. The VFX are used carefully or not carefully and not existently, which helps keep the film grounded instead of flashing effect. The focus is on making the horror film real or close. The design of Kita character, especially her manifold appearance, is one of the most memorable visual aspect of the film. The background music and the sound designs also play a very important role in the building tension. Instead of loud or dramatic music, the film often use stable sound, silence, and low tone to create fear. This makes certain scene feel more intense because the audience is not prepared for what might happen next. When the music does rise, especially in emotional or climax moment, it adds to the impact without feeling overwhelming. Overall, the film overall the film get a positive response. Overall, this film is not a typical horror or mummy movie. It is a slow, emotional, and deeply disturbing story that focuses on the family sacrifice and the consequence of the facing something behind humans understanding. It may not satisfy viewers who are looking for fast action or simple storytelling, but for these who appreciate deep physically horror, it offers a unique and memorable experience. The film leaves a strong emotional impact, making the audience think about its themes even after it ends. As the film moves toward its final act, the tension reaches its highest point, and this is where the movie truly shows its emotional and physical strength, especially in the way it handles the climax and the resolution of the story, which is not just about defining evil but about sacrifice, consequence, and emotional loss. The build up to the ritual scene in the basement is one of the most intense part of the film, where every character is pushed to their limit, and the director by Lee cornea become even more focused and controlled, allowing the audience to feel every moment of fear, hesitation, and emotional pain. The pacing where become tighter compared to the early part of the film, and the situation where the movie performed well. And instead of feeling slow, it feels heavy and meaningful, as if every second matters. The climax itself, where Charlie decides to take the demon into his own body, is not presented as a heroic or a action filled moment, but as a deeply emotional and painful choice, which makes it far more powerful. Jack delivers an outstanding performance in the sequence, showing fear, love, and determination all at the same time, making the audience truly full the weight of his sacrifice. His physically acting during the position scene is also very convincing, and his body language slowly change, showing the struggle between this human self and the dark force taking control. The emotional reaction of the Lysra, played by Laia Costa, adds another layer of depth to the climax, as her pain feels really real and relatable, especially when she realizes that saving her daughter means losing her husband in a different way. This emotional conflict is one of the strongest part of the film, because it shows that there is no perfect solution, only difficult choice. May Calamawy and Dela continues to shine its in this part of the film, acting as a rational and focused character who guides the families through the battle. But even she shows sign of emotional pressure, which makes her character feel human and not just a problem solver. The supporting character, especially the children, also contributes to the emotional weight, as their fear and confusion make the situation feel more real and tragic. Visually, the climax handled with a strong scene of the atmosphere rather than expressive special effect. The basement setting, with its dark lighting and closed environment, creates a feeling of isolation and danger, as if there is no escape from what is happening. The VFX are used in a suitable but effective way, especially during the demon transfer scene, where the focus is more on physical reaction and environmental change rather than flashy visual. This makes the horror feel more grounded and believable. The design of the demon influence show thought Katie appearance and later thought Charlie transformation is disturbing but not overdone, which helps maintain the serious tone of the film. The sound design and music reach their peak effectiveness during the climax. The use of silence, low background tones, and sudden shift in sound create a intense scene of tension. Instead of relying on loud music to create fear, the film used quiet moment to make the audience feel uncomfortable, which is often more effective when the music does become more noticeable. That support the emotional moment rather than overpowering them, especially during the sacrifice scene and the final transfer of the demon. This careful use of sound show a strong understanding of how to build tension without making the experience feel forced. As the story moves into the ending, the film avoids a typically happy ending and instead presents a more realistic and emotional conclusion. Kita is saved, but she is not the same as before, both physically and emotionally, which reflect the lasting impact of trauma. Charlie survives, but it's deeply changed, and the family as a whole is left with scars that cannot simply disappear. The decision to return to Egypt and transfer to Demo back to the Magican adds a final layer of closure, bringing the story full circle and connecting the beginning and the end its meaningful way. This final act also reinforced the idea that some evils cannot be destroyed, only connected, which is a more mature and thought provoking approach compared to traditional horror films. From an audience perspective, the film leaves a strong and lasting impression, but it may not be for everyone. Viewers who enjoy fast-paced horror action may find it slow or emotionally heavy, but these who appreciate deep, strongly character development and physically horror will likely find it very impactful. The film does not aim to entertain in a light or simple way. Instead, it challenges the audience to feel uncomfortable, to think about its theme, and to connect with the character on an emotional level. This makes it a more serious and meaningful viewing experience. In terms of overall quality, the film succeeded in create a unique identity with the horror genre. It takes a well-known concept like the mummy and transfer into the something darker and more emotional and more complex. While it may have some flaws, which is piecing issue or moment of confusing in the story, its strength is acting, direction, atmosphere, and emotion deep make it a memorable film. The performance, especially by Jack and Lisa, stand out as the emotional core of the story, while Lee Cronin direct ensure that the film maintains consistent tone from beginning to end. In conclusion, this film is a bold and different take on the horror genre, focusing more on human emotions and physically fair than traditional horror element. It tells a story about love, sacrifice, and the consequence or facing something behind human control, and it is not so in a way that feels both disturbing and meaningful. The climax and the ending leave a deep impact, making the audience reflect on what they what they have seen rather than simply moving on. This makes the film not just a horror experience but an emotional journey that stays with the viewers long after it ends. On the other hand, the movie production development I discuss in this video, the movie got a remarkable positive reviews that I highly recommend a request. The film is not just a normal horror movie. The film is not just a normal horror movie. The film The Mummy 2026 had a moderate start when it was released in the United States and Canada by Warner Bros. Pictures on April 17, 2026, and into a it come into a cinema with some acceptation because it was connected to a famous horror name, but also different from the older Mummy movies. Before its officially release, the movie had its premiere in Los Angeles on April 9, 2026, which helped create early attention among critics and fans. When the film finally opened in theaters, it was shown in more than 3,300 cinema theaters, which is wide release, and it also had screening in IMAX, giving it a bigger visual experience for the audience. On its first night, the movie earned around $1.5 million from the Thursday previews, which showed that people were interested but not extremely excited. Experts predict that the film would make around $12 million in opening weekend, which is considered an average performance for a horror movie of the scale. This means the film did not start a big blockbuster, but it also was a completely failure. It had decent but not very strong opening, which often happens with horror film that depends more on word of mouth that hug marketing type. When we look at the review, the response from critics was mixed, meaning some criticized liked the film, while another had a problem with it. On Return Tomatoes, the movie received around 46% positive reviews, which showed that less than half of the critics give it a positive rating. The general opinion from the critics was that the film had some strong horror element, especially its dark and disturbing scene, and it also tried to tell a more personal and emotional story compared to traditional mummy films. However, many critics felt that the movie was too long and slow in some parts, that the score was not always acceptable. Effective. On Metacritic, the film received a score of 46 out of 100, which gain show mixed and average reviews. The kind of score usually means that film is not bad but is also not a great, and it may not appeal to everyone. Audience reaction were also not very strong, as people who watched the movie gave it an average grade of C plus third cinema score, which suggests that general review found it's okay but not very impressive or excitement. Even though the reviews were mixed, the film still had some strong points that people talked about. Many viewers appreciated that the movie tried to do something different instead of repeating the same old mummy story. The directors Lee Cornea want to make a more serious and scary version of the concept of focusing on a normal family instead of kings of incensed rollers. This career decision made the film feel more personal and emotional, but it also made a different from what many audience accepted. Some people like this new direction, while others missed the adventure and action of older mummy films. Overall, the reception of the film in its early days showed that it is an movie that both strengths and weakness. It managed the attractive attention and brings people into theater, but it did not fully stratified, criticize, or generally audience. This creates an interesting situation where the film may become more appreciated over time by viewing by enjoying showing emotional horror, even if it did not become a big hit immediately. This first part of the reception of box office story show that Mummy 2026 started its journey in a balanced way, not a major success but not a total failure either, leaving room from discussion and deeper analyze in the next opinion. The development of the film is one of the most interesting part of its journey because it shows how a family's ideas was slowly changed into something new, n- more personal and more emotional. This process started when the studio New Line Cinema decided to create a new horror project that would later become a remaining of the Mummy story. At first, the film did not even have a title, and it was simply planned as a horror movie set for release in April 2026, but everything changed when the project was officially revealed as a new version of The Mummy, which surprised many people because the older Mummy films was mostly adventure based, while this new version was planned as a dark and serious horror story. The director Lee Cornea was given full creativity, full creative control, which means he had the freedom to shape the story, tone, and style in his own way. And this is very important because it allowed him to take risk and move, move, move away from the traditional formula. Interestingly, Cronin was not originally very interested in making a mummy film, but the idea came from producer James Wan, who is well known for his work in horror and who encouraged Corinne to try something different by making a truly scary version of the mummy concept, not an action film but a pure horror experience. This conversation between the director and producer played a key role in shaping the direction of the film. Another important producer, Johnson, also contributes to create version and the even suggest adding the director's name to the title of the film, which is why it is called Yours the Mummy. At first, Corinne was unsure about this idea because it is not very common for directors to have their name in the title. But later he accepted it, and this decision helped make the film feel more like a personal project rather than just other franchise entry. It also helped avoid confusion with older mummy films, making the clear that this is a completely different version. This film was produced by companies like Blumhouse Production and Atomic Monster, both of which are known for making successful horror movies with strong concept and controlled budgets. And this explains why the film focused more on atmosphere and storytelling instead of big action scenes. One of the most powerful influence on the film development come from the personal life of Leo Cornea himself. He has shared that while working on the film, he was dealing with the real life loss of his mother, who passed away around the same time he finished his previous movie. The emotional experience had a deep impact on his, and he used that pain was inspiration from the story of Mummy. This is why the film feels more emotional and focused on family, grief, and loss rather than just horror. For example, some scenes in the movie were inspired by real moments from his life, including difficult decisions related to death and loss, which adds a layer of realism and emotional depth in the story. This showed that the film is not just about fear but also about human emotions and how people deal with tragedy. Lee Cornea was also wanted to completely change how the mummy is presented in the film. Instead of showing a powerful, incensed king of, he chose to focus on an ordinary person who became a mummy thought a disturbing and painful process. This idea makes the horror film more personal and closer to reality because it is easier for the audience to connect with a normal human character than with a distant historical figure. His research from the film, including studying real life provides bodies and historical reference from the North Africa, as well as looking at museum as exhibits like preserved bog bodies, which helped the create a more realistic and unsettling design of the mummy in the film. This attention to detail shows how much effort was put into making the horror film believable. Another interesting part of the development process is that this film is not connected to the older mummy film made by Universal, which means it stands completely on its own. This gave the creators more freedom to experiment and take the story in a new direction without worrying about continually or acceptation from previous films. Cornine even turned down to opportunity to work on a sequel to this previous successful horror movie in order to focus fully on his project, which showing how impact this film was to him. The influence on the film are also very important to understanding its tone and style. Korean described the movie as a mix of the supernatural horror or polo graphics and the dark, serious tone of Seven combined with his own unique way of storytelling. He also maintained inspiration from the TV show Breaking Bad, especially in terms of visual style and color use, which helps explain why the film looks and feels different from typically horror movies. In addition, the film includes elements of Egyptian mythology and psychology, belief building different cultured ideas into the story, which adds completely, but also make the narrative richer. Overall, the development of the Mummy 2026 showed that the film was created with a clear vision and strong person influence from its director. It is not just a remake but a completely different that focus on emotional storytelling, realistic horror, and human experience. The combination of creative freedom, personal inspiration, and strong production support allowed the film to become something unique even if it may not appeal to everyone. This part of the film journey explains why it feels so different from other movies in the same genre and why it creates a deeper emotional impact on the audience. The casting of the film plays a very important role in how the story feels to the audience because this is not just a horror movie with action but a deeply emotional and character driven story. So the actors need to bring real feeling, fear, and pain to their roles in a believable way, and this is where the casting choice made by the filmmaker become very important and interesting. The process of selecting actors began early 2025 when the main role were given to Jack and Laia Costa, who played Charlie and his wife. The parents at the center of the story, and their performance are the emotional core of the film because the interior narrative depends on how strongly the audience connect with their struggle to save their daughter. Jack brings a very natural and grounded performance to the role of Charlie, showing him not a hero in the traditional scene, but as a normal man who is trying to do the right thing in a situation that is fair behind his controlled, and this makes the character feel very real and relatable, especially in scene where he show guilt, fear, and emotional breakdown, and later when he makes the ultimate sacrifice. This acting become even more powerful because the audience understand his pain and motivation. Leah Costa, on their other hand, delivers a performance that is both strong but emotionally, showing a mother who is trying to stay calming and protect her family while also dealing with deep fear and confusion, and her ability to express emotions, thoughts, small reaction, face, physical experience, and body language make her character feel very human, especially in moment where she is forced to accept difficult truth. Another important casting choose in May Kela, who played a Dila, a character that acted as a bridge between the mystery and the solution, and her performance adds intelligence and more impressive to the story because while the family is emotional and struggling, her character brings focus and direction, helping the audience understand what is happening and what needs to be done. And her presence also adds in cultural deep to the film because she connects the story back to Egypt and its origin. Alongside her version plays Carmen, the grandmother, choose role, although not the largest is still very impactful because she presents faith and tradition, and her performance adds emotional weight to the family dynamic, especially in scene where she tried to protect the family thought years, showing a different way of dealing with fear. The youngster cast members, including these playing Katie and also deserved attention because their roles requires them to show fear, confusion, and in Katie's case, extremely disturbing behavior as she become controlled by a demon. and these performances are not easily because they involve both emotionally acting and physically horror element as such as unnatural movement and expiration which must feel realistic to make the horror effective. An interesting impact of the costing versus in the effect including aesthetic presentation, especially for the Egyptian character and setting. The director Lee Corona has maintained that he want to film to feel real and respectful in terms of culture and language, which is why the film including actors who have connection to Egyptian or Arabic backgrounds, and it is also use Arabic language in certain scene to make the environment feel more natural. This attention to detail help with the film feel more grounded and believable, especially in the part of the story that take place in Egypt. For example, some actors worked on improving their dialogues to match the setting more accurately. We show the level of effect put into the making the film authentic. Another interesting deal is what Leah, who worked with the directors in a previous film, makes a small appearance in the movie, which adds a stable connection between the director past work and this new project. Her even thought her role is not large, it shows how the director value collaboration and continue with actor he trusts. The performance in the film are not just about delivers lines but also about physically acting, especially in the horror scene. The actor play Kaita has to show a transformation from a normal chill to a disturbing and almost inhuman pressures, and his requires a combination of body controlled faction experience and timing to create a scene of fear without relying only a visual effect. These kinds of performance are very important in a film like this where the horror is made to feel real and close rather than similarly. Jack performance in the later part of the film involves physically change that show the demon influence and this add another layer to his acting, making the transformation believable. Overall, the casting of the Mummy 2026 is one of the most strongest element because it supports both the emotional and the horror aspect of the story. This actor bring deep to their character, making the audience care about what happens to them, which is very important in a film that relief on emotional impact as such as fear. The combination of experienced actors, strong performance, and attention to culture deal help create a believable and engaging world, even when the story get more dangerous and stronger. Even when the story becomes supernatural and intense, this part of the film shows that good casting is not just about choosing famous name, but about finding the right people who can bring the story to life in a meaningful way. The filming process of the movie is very important part of the understanding how the final result looks or feels, because a horror film like this depends a lot on atmosphere, camera work, lighting and location choose, and all these elements were carefully planned by the director Lee Cornin and his team to create a dark, realistic and emotional experience for the audience. The main shooting of the film began on March 24, 2025 and continued until June 25, 2025, which means the production had around the 3 months to complete the principal photograph. During this time, the filmmaker worked in different countries like Ireland and Spain to create visual world of story. Even thought the film is set primarily in Egypt and particularly in the United States. Not all scenes were actually filmed in these real locations, where film production often use different countries to represent other places depending on cost, environment, and available resources. And in this case, Ireland, and Spain were used to create many of the film settings, including desert-like areas and urban environments. One of the key goals during filming was to make the world of the movie feel real and grounded. Even though the story itself is supernatural, this is why the director chose a style that focus on a natural lighting, practical sets, and controlled cameras movement inside instead of railing too much on artificial on overly polished visuals. Many scenes inside the house were filmed using tight camera angles and choose shoots which creates a feeling of being tripped or watched, helping the audience feel the same tension as the character. The house itself become an important location in the film, almost like a character because most of the horror happens inside it, and the way it is filmed with dark corners, narrow hallways, and quiet rooms make it feel unsafe and uncomfortable. The basement is particularly is one of the most important location, and it is designed to feel cool, dark, and isolated, which makes the final brutal scene more intense and emotional. The cinematography of the film uses a lot of shadows and low lighting, which is common in horror movies, but there is done is very controlled by a thoughtful way. Instead of making everything completely dark, the filmmakers use light and shadow to guide the viewers' attention and create suspense. For example, sometimes a character is shown in a particle light which is background remains dark, making the audience feel that something could be hiding there. This technique increases tension with the needing to show anything directly. The camera movement is also very important as it is often slow and steady, allow to the viewer to take in the scene and feel the atmosphere rather than being distracted by the fast cuts or shakes shoot. In some scene the camera follows the character closely, almost like it is watching them, which adds to a feel and feels of unsafe case. Another important part of the visual style is the color patterns of the film. The director was inspired by the visual style of Breaking Bad, especially is how colors are used to create mood or meaning. This film uses a mix of dull moods, colors of everyday scene, which makes the world feel realistic and serious. But during more intense or emotional moment, the color becomes slightly stronger or more focused, helping to highlights the importance of these scenes. For example, warm tone may be used during filming moment to show connection connection, while older tones are used during horror scene to create distance and fear. This careful use of color helps the audience feel the emotional change in the story without needing observe explanation. The design of the mummy and the horror element is another key part of the filming process. Instead of relying only on digital effect, the filmmakers used practical effect as such as possible, including real makeup, costume, and physically crops to create a more believable and disturbing look. This warping the skin structure and the physical condition of Katy character was designed to deal to make her appearance feel real and uncomfortable. This approach is often more effective in horror films because the audience can see that what they are seeing has a physically presence, which make it more frightening. Digital effect or VFX were still used by mostly to enhance the practical element rather than replace them, such as adding stable movement, improving lighting, or create supernatural effect that cannot be done physically. Filming also involved careful planning of the scene that required emotional intensity and physical performance that from the actors. The director worked closely with the cast to ensure that each scene felt natural and believable even when the action was extreme or disturbing. This includes scenes where characters are under stress, fear, or influence of the supernatural, which requires a balance between acting and technical executions. This time of camera movement, actor performance, and sound design all had to work together perfectly to create the disturbed effect. Another interesting aspect of the filming process is how the filmmaker recreates the filming on Egypt without always being there is physically. Thought set designs, props, costume and background details. They were able to build an environment that feels cultural and visually connected to the Egypt. This includes elements like architectures, structures, and small visual details that make the setting believable. The use of Arabic language in certain scenes also adds to the realism, making the world feel more authentic. Overall, of the filming, The Mummy 2026 shows a strong focus on deal, atmosphere, and emotional storytelling. Every visual element from lighting and camera work to set design and colors is used to support the mood of the film and the journey of the character instead of trying to impress the audience with big action scene or flashy effect. The film focus on creating a consistent impressive experience that slowly build tension and keep the viewers engaged. This careful and thoughtful approach to filming is one of the reason why the movie feels different from many other horror films, as it prioritizes feeling and atmosphere over spectral. The final and very important part of the understanding this film is how music and sound designs, visual effects, and overall audience impact come together to create a complete experience, because in a horror movie like this these elements are just as important as the story and acting, and something even more powerful in creating fear and situations. This music in the film is not loud or overly dramatic most of time, but instead it is very controlled, slow and stable, which match the tone of the story. Instead of using big noticeable theme, the film often uses low background sound, soft tune and quiet music that slowly build tension in the scene. This kind of music makes the audience feel uncomfortable without clarity telling them why, which is very effective in physically horror. In many scenes, the film even uses silence as a tool where there is almost no music at all, and this silence makes small sound like footstep, breathing, or movement feel much more intense and scary dangerous when the music does not become stronger, especially in emotional or climactic moment. It supports the feeling of the scene instead of overpowering it, helping the audience connect with that the character are going thought. The sound design of the film is one of its strongest failure, because the sound design of the film is one of its strongest feature, because it creates a consist feeling of tension and uncase. Every small sound in the film is carefully designed, from the cracking of doors to the strange clicking noise made by Kita, which become a very important part of the story. These sounds are not just there is a score to audience. These sounds are not just there to scare the audience but also to communicate meaning, like when Morse code is used to send message. The use of background noise and distant sound make the environment feel alive and unpredictable, as if something is it's always happening just outside the frame. This creates a sense of fear that does not depend only on what we see, but also on what we hear. This the balance between silence and sound is handled very carefully, which show a high level of skill in the sound design. When it comes to visual effect VFX, the film take a more realistic and controlled approach instead of relying heavily on computer generated images. Many horror films today use a lot of digital effect, but in this movie the filmmakers focus more on prac- practical effects such as makeup, art costumes, and real physical details, and then use VFX only to enhance these elements. This make the horror feel more real and believable, especially in the scene where Kita body change or where the demon's presence is shown. These visual effects are used to add small but important detail like unnatural movement, stable direction, or environment change, which helps to create supernatural feeling without making it looks fake or real. This approach makes the film more grounded and serious, which fits its emotional and physically tone. On the other hand, movie get a remarkable positive response. So the guys, this brings us to the end of our full details review of the movie The Mummy. I hope you really enjoy this long video and understand the story, the characters, the emotions, and the deep meaning behind the film. I tried my best to explain everything in a simple and easy way so that everyone can understand it clearly, especially those who love movies but prefer simple explanation. If you like this video and found it helpful, please do not forget to like the video because your support really helps the channel grow. Also make sure to subscribe the YouTube channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss upcoming videos like this where we break down movies in a simple and detailed way. This video was made for only education and review purpose. The main goal of the video is to explain and review the movie for fans who want to understand the story and understand the story, not to upload or replace the full movie. All the images and clips used in the video are used only for commentary, explanation, and review, which helps viewers understand the film better. These materials are used in a fair and respectful way for movie fans, and all rights of the original content belong to their respective owner. We fully respect the creator, producer, and everyone involved in making this film. If you have watched the movie that if you have watched the movie, then left we know your thoughts in the comment section. What you liked, what you did not like, and how you felt about the ending. I would love to read your opinion and connect with all you. And if you have not watched the movie yet, I recommended you to watch it and then come back to this video to understand it even better. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Your time and support really mean a lot. Keeping supporting, keeping watching, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care and stay safe. Thanks for watching.